Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central. So in today's video we wanted to talk about the importance of adding more permanent content into Overwatch. With Blizzcon coming up in not too long, we wanted to bring up why we think this sort of content is essential for the game and why presenting this sort of content at Blizzcon is incredibly important. Anyway, let's get into the video.
So with BlizzCon last year, we figured that Overwatch would get a certain amount of additions and that these additions would be divided up into 3 categories: a new hero, a new map, and a new aspect. The reason as to why we wanted to call it aspect was because there were many things we feel like the 3rd edition could be. All in all, we were pretty sure that Blizzard would give us a new way to play the game, essentially. This theory of ours became reality to some degree with the addition of Arcade, and the formula of a new hero, Sombra, a new map, Oasis, and a new aspect seemed accurate. So with just over a month away from BlizzCon now, we wanted to make a video talking about this new aspect of the game and how essential we think it is to Overwatch's long-term survival. Whilst getting the pace of adding new heroes and maps right is equally important, I feel like revitalizing the game as a whole is important for the long-term survival, or at least popularity, of Overwatch.
The main method of keeping the game alive for a long amount of time is to release big content patches every so often. The best example of this is when you look at MMOs and the big expansion packs that they have for those games. World of Warcraft, you look at Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King, Legion. It seems like a content release model that would have to be shoehorned into Overwatch somewhat, and even then it's not really a way of keeping the game alive that I think would work well at all. In MOBAs, this is mostly done by rebalancing a lot of the game, adding new mechanics and tweaking the maps. Creating an Overwatch 2 in inverted commas seems extremely unlikely, as Blizzard don't really do sequels to previous games very often. So let's just scrap that idea for now, at least in the idea that there would be a completely new base game for Overwatch. As we see it, the only format left here is a big content and rebalancing patch, and whilst the seasonal events do bring new content, they're not permanent additions to the game. Keeping an online game alive by launching big updates to bring new life into the game has been a popular strategy in gaming lately, so let's take a look at some good examples for what Overwatch can look at and maybe try themselves.
So we have a few examples here actually, and this data is from Google Trends, which allows you to just look at how much a certain search term is searched for on Google, and in this case we're looking at video games. I've looked at a bunch of different ones, and the first one I want to highlight here is Destiny. Now Blizzard clearly liked Destiny as it's part of the Blizzard launcher now. If we look at the Destiny graph, we can see that the initial spike of it being announced and teased and so on, and then the game launching in September that year had it going at its peak, then it sort of went down for a bit, there were updates a bit here and there, and then there was an expansion a year later. So you get a pretty good idea of the popularity of Destiny there, how it sort of goes up and down, and just how players react to certain announcements, patches, and so on. Now we can have a look at Heroes of the Storm as well, which was announced, was in beta for a while, and then launched right here. And then after that it sort of died off a little bit. There were patches and so on, sort of a little bit of a wave. But what I want to highlight here is this part. And this is the Heroes 2.0 update, which is very similar to what we'd like to see for Overwatch at some point. And as you can see, the game sort of spikes a little bit more in popularity again, and dies off a bit again, of course, over time. So now you guys have a pretty good idea of what big content patches that add permanent content to the game sort of do in terms of popularity. So let's take a look at the Overwatch graph then. You can see the initial announcement here into just waiting for the beta essentially over the course of a year. The beta launching and a big spike happening. And then it sort of steadily goes down over time and just sort of goes a little bit up and down depending on where the seasonal events are placed. But the main thing I want to highlight here is that you can't really tell where BlizzCon 2016 is at in this graph. There's no real big spike with lots of new content added and then having that go slowly down over time. Instead, it's just sort of been declining from about 40 or 30 right around here to where we are at right now, which is around 20. Now 100 of that being the spike, of course. And this is the thing, I feel like this sort of behavior of the popularity chart will continue if we don't get these big additions to the game. So let's go into how we think Blizzard could do that and what sort of stuff I feel like we can almost expect over time to be added to the game.
To wrap this video up, we want to present a couple of examples of big content patches that would almost be like an expansion to the game. But this is to give you an idea of what sort of size we're thinking these expansions would need to be to add enough permanent content to last the community for a while. And ideally what we'd like to see at BlizzCon as well. First up on the list is something that I've been wanting for quite some time. We'd love to see a new competitive game mode added into the game together with a set of at least 3 maps from this new mode. This would help revitalize both casual and competitive play. As for casual, you have a lot more maps to play with in the arcade and just new stuff to explore. And it would make a lot of sense for competitive play, as Rank could use a little bit new content to it with this new mode and it would also nicely fit into Overwatch Contenders in the Overwatch League. This gets a little bit tinfoily, but if you look at Overwatch Contenders, they run a best of 4 with their map pools and their sort of competitive game modes in there, which is a bit bizarre. So maybe if they add a new game mode in there, you have a best of 5, which would mean that it's all set up for stronger map drafts when the Overwatch League starts. Next up, we have more of a classic Blizzard expansion type of update that we imagine could consist of one new map for each mode, together with a slight retheme of a lot of other maps. This would allow the Overwatch team to have an excuse to rework a lot of stuff in the game if they'd like to, and also please fans from a lore perspective if something like a second Omnic Crisis in the main focus of this update. So for example, stuff being changed on Volskaya Industries after the Sombra shot, and any other future stuff that may happen, which brings the story of Overwatch into the game, because some of these maps haven't changed since the game was launched, so kind of like what has happened on Numbani, but over a few other maps. We're going to end it here before we ramble on for too long about this. We wanted to make this video to try and highlight the importance of having these big updates with permanent content. But anyway, that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know what you would like to see at BlizzCon and what you feel that the game is missing currently as far as content is concerned. Let us know in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, take care. We'll see you then.